Right, so next we're going to be talking about proteins. Now the simplest form of proteins are our amino acids. Now how do we get there? Well, let me show you. So what happens when we eat food is we're eating proteins. And when the protein enters the mouth, they start getting mechanically digested by the teeth in our mouths. And so that starts breaking down the proteins into smaller and smaller pieces that can be used, that are small enough for our body to be able to swallow and go down the esophagus. However, there are no actual enzymes or chemical digestion that happens in the mouth that affect the proteins. So the teeth just chew them down into smaller pieces. That's when it enters the esophagus and travels down into the stomach. Now once it enters the stomach releases this gastric juice that contains pepsin. Now the pepsin helps break down the protein into smaller pieces and eventually turns them into peptides. So now we have a peptide here in the stomach. So now these peptides continue from the stomach, go into the duodenum or the small intestine. The first part of the duodenum is the first part of the small intestine, and that's when the majority of the breakdown happens. So the pancreas, which is right here, it secretes different enzymes like trypsin and trypsinogen that help break down these peptides into the smallest basic form amino acids. Now trypsin and trypsinogen are the same enzyme, however there's an active form and an inactive form. Now the reason this is important is so that your body doesn't break down the proteins in your own body when you haven't consumed any proteins. So this is just to keep your body safe. So the trypsin and the trypsinogen help break down your proteins or your peptides into the simplest form, amino acids. Now once it leaves the duodenum, it enters the jejunum and the ileum, and this is where the absorption occurs. So now your amino acids are in your small intestine, and they're getting absorbed through the villi in the small intestine, which are curves that increase the surface area that allow it to be able to absorb more easily. So now these amino acids will get absorbed through what we call the circulatory system or through blood. So it transports through the blood into the rest of the body, and then your body will then distribute it to wherever it needs to go. Whatever's left over travels into the large intestine, travels through, and so the large intestine draws out the moisture, draws out the water, and it also absorbs or produces very essential nutrients and other indigestible foods, and whatever's left over releases through the anus as feces.